Hey guys, welcome to the $7 to $100 million podcast. I'm your host, Tim Warren. I am joined by Paul DeMott and Daniel Sfire, our marketing manager and the CTO at Helium. I'm the CEO. And the purpose of this podcast, if you're joining us new for the first time, is we are documenting the good, the bad, and the ugly of scaling a business from 7 million, to 100 million, and what we have to do in between that whole journey. So right now, at the focus of our business, we are focusing a ton on advertising, learning how to really market our business. We've been diving into Hormozi stuff, where he has basically told us no one knows who we are, so advertise more because no one cares and no one knows. So spread it as much as we can. We've been doing that via meta ads. That's been working great. Also, we have learned that we don't have enough processes. We don't have enough, especially on the sales team. So we've been really working hard to train our sales reps, focus on close rates, focus on having a closing framework where we don't go into every call, hoping it goes the best and letting the client drive. We go into every call with a plan of attack, knowing exactly how we're going to close, what the questions are that we're going to face, what the objections are, and exactly how to overcome them. So this idea of going pro in your business. So guys, I had some interesting stuff to talk about today. I was thinking this morning, so one of the things I try to do in the mornings when I wake up and have my first cup of coffee is I think about, what's the one thing I can do in the business today to actually really move it forward? And Zuckerberg, when he was building Facebook, earlier days of Facebook, as they raised venture capital and started to really grow, there was so much stuff he could work on, but he had this idea of focus. So he would wake up and every day he would say, what's the one thing I can do today that would make the biggest impact on Facebook, right? Yes, he could bring on new advertisers. Yes, he could hire new employees. Yes, there's all stuff he could do. He could code new things, but what would have the largest impact? So I was thinking about that this morning. And so I'd like to just talk through that is, for each of us as we're thinking, what's the one thing we could do to make the most impact? But before we do that, I want to throw something out. I watched a video last night about podcasting, just, as we're trying to get into podcasting, learning more about it. Do you know how many podcasts you have to make to be in the top 1% of podcasters? The top 1% of people never make more than this many podcasts.
Do you mean
episodes?
Per week or episodes?
No, total. The total amount of episodes. If you want to be in the top 1% of podcasters, how many episodes do you need to make, do you think?
75.
I'm guessing 3,000 or 4,000.
The bottom 99% of people never make more than 20 episodes. That's it. And so if you make 21 episodes, our first episodes are terrible. We're trying to figure out the thing. We're using Riverside.
So bad.
Wait, so yeah, we should celebrate that day. We can play the drum roll thing. Do you still have that, Danielle? When we get to one?
Let me try to find that.
Tim, I thought something that could be cool is if we actually label our podcast something like day 1 of growing to 100 million, day 2.
That's a great idea.
Because I love that format. But then also when we hit day 21, it can be a celebration. We can get Starbucks or something.
Dude, we should do it. That's awesome. No, that's a great idea because then people can actually watch the journey and go back and oh look, there's the younger Paul. He was 100 days younger.
Or I'm gonna look younger as we do this longer. So,
yeah, that's actually true. Yeah.
Right, wow, he's like Brian Johnson. He's looking older while trying to look younger.
He's aging in reverse. So here's the crazy thing. I just want to throw this out there with podcasting. It's going to suck at the beginning, and that's okay. But the vast majority of people, 99%, never make it past 20 episodes. That's the furthest they make it. And I was blown away by that. Because we're doing one episode a day, right? Whether they're great or not. But by doing this for 1 month, we'll be further along than 99% of people who are podcasting, which is insane.
Yeah, that's super cool.
That's insane. So the takeaway, I just wanted to share that. I think so many times in business, we look at the billionaires, we look at the people really far down the road and we're like, gosh, how do I catch up to these people? I'm losing, right? And we feel bad about ourselves. And yet, and then what happens is we're like, oh, I'll never catch up. And then we quit. And then we never do anything. Versus it's like, what do I have to do to be in the top 1% of podcasters? Oh, I have to podcast 20 times. That's it.
Yeah,
Literally 20 times.
I've heard someone talk about this, but they're like, whenever you're doing something, like whenever you're pursuing something, you have to like, and you want to get really good at it, you have to realize like 90% of the people that are actually trying to do that thing aren't actually putting that big of a step forward. And it's not as hard as you think to like do something fairly well.
Right.
Like as soon as you put like a little bit more effort in, you do some research, you strategize, like you're usually already like ahead of like 90% of the people trying to do that thing.
Totally. Yeah. And this idea of just being willing to keep going and keep pushing to get better, even at the beginning when you're not good, most people will quit. Mm-hmm. And so this idea with podcasting is like, if you only have to make 20 episodes, like you literally just have to do it longer than everybody else who quits after like, let's say they do one episode a week and they quit after 20 weeks. What I like about this one, guys, is we're doing it every day, which I think is easier than doing it once a week, because if it's a once a week thing, it's like, oh, I'm busy. We can miss today, but then you missed a whole week. And then, 20 weeks is almost half a year, right? That's like pretty close to half a year, because 52 weeks in a year. So back to Hormozi's framework of more, better, new, right? It's like, well, I should podcast every week. I actually think it's easier to do something really hard, like really aggressively. He says the word violence, where he's like violently, like doing it violently, right? Where he's like,
he talks about like, I feel the word he used, I like it, but it was like attack angles. He's like, or attack vectors. He's like, most people underestimate the number of attack vectors that you need to like push at something to be successful at it. And like more successful people have like way more just volume and like angles that they're pursuing something.
Right, exactly. And so if we are like, well, let's just podcast every day for 30 minutes and create a nice pod, and that documents our success, in 1 month, we'll have done more pods than 99% of people ever do, which is crazy, right? So I think it's really easy to overestimate what it takes to be great, and how long you might have to do something to get great at it. But like, don't look at the end journey. Just be like, what if I was consistent for like 1 month, right? That would literally be enough in podcasting to be in the top 1%, which is nuts. So I think that's the other thing we need to remember too, is whatever it is we're doing, whether it's training sales reps or hiring new reps or creating systems or creating content or making ads or whatever, right? It's okay to suck before you're good. And it actually, you might be surprised how little effort it takes to become in the top 10% because of how quickly everyone else quits. Right?
Yep.
Which is nuts.
Yeah. Great message for today.
Yeah.
It is. And I mean, for those of you guys who are watching, maybe you haven't seen our first episodes, but we started using Riverside, which is a podcasting platform, and it's just hyper laggy. So we would record these episodes and they'd be super laggy, and you'd screen share and it was like just awful lag, right? But instead of being like, oh, this is too painful, okay, like let's try something else. Then we tried Zoom. That was the video quality was bad. But the crazy thing is we just were like, we're going to podcast every day at 8:30 a.m. And so we just have to figure it out. So then we just went to the next software, and then we tried Zencaster, and that wasn't great. And then we eventually found this one. This one seems to be good, right? Just don't click on the duck. If you click on the duck, you leave. So don't do that. If you hover over the duck, it like he moves. I'm like, oh, cool. And then I clicked on him, and you leave the studio. So don't click the duck. The duck is a trap. It's a trap door. But yeah, just this idea of like, I'm going to do this every day. I'm just going to podcast every day. So I think this idea of like, he calls it violence, right? Like this violent effort, right? Right. Like if you're just attacking it with full aggression, what could you succeed? And I think that's easier than trying to like this measured approach. Like, I'm just going to podcast once a week, right?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think sometimes like even like something like running or working out is a lot easier when you do it every day versus like every so often, because you kind of just can build all these daily habits and rituals. And if every day, like if you work out like once a week or something, then 6 days a week you're building the habit of not working out. And I do think a lot of times just daily things are easier it sounds like a lot more, but it's easier. And then I also totally agree, like with improvement, just when we start doing this stuff and like you're actually taking action, that's like when then like researching and learning more and applying it actually is helpful. So I do think so many people spend so much upfront time like researching, planning, and it's you know, and it doesn't apply to anything that like until you're actually in the weeds doing it, you don't really know what matters as much. So I'm sure as we do this podcast more, we're gonna start like kind of having these realizations that we should do this instead of this. But we couldn't have planned it all out from the get-go. I think it's better to be doing this stuff and then learning along the way than trying to figure it all out before you start. So I think
this is so much more fun.
Good. Yeah, and it's more fun. Yeah. It's also fun to see yourself progress too. Like I think we'll enjoy watching these videos over time.
Yeah.
That will be fun. All right, so let's talk about this idea of the one thing. So I'll be curious to hear, Paul, why don't you start, man? What's in the business today? So with our ads, like let's start there.
Yeah.
What's the one thing today you could do to move our ads further forward? The most, like what's the most impactful one thing you could do today?
Yeah. So I'll zoom out like a little bit on like how I'm thinking about it, because I think number one, you know, for constraint theory to work, like we have to know like what's the goal that we're trying to achieve. And so, you know, I think the goal that we're shooting for right now is 50K MRR a month in sales. So we need to have the throughput and output in order to create 50K MRR. So I've been trying to using that as like the starting point, and then I'm looking at the entire system. So like leads in, meetings, second meetings, proposal, sale, and then asking myself where is the cheapest place we can put attention that will have the biggest impact that will help us improve. So, I mean, really like the last like 5 or 6 days, I've been focused on the same problem, which is when I look at the month coming up, how do we get to 50K MRR? I think the biggest constraint is going to be how do we get enough good leads to go there. So we had a fantastic month this month,
right?
But this month was also the result of deals that had been sitting in pipeline for a while, and they weren't all deals that were coming from our marketing. So if we're realistic that those deals are going to be gone, marketing is going to need to produce more good leads for us to be on pace for this goal. Right. So I've spent a lot of time researching, like, you know, and I just kind of like using my own knowledge from doing this for clients on like, how do we get to the place where we are getting a higher percentage of good leads coming through? So like take like Sunday, for example, we had 20 leads come through and almost all of them were tiny ICP leads. That could start to become kind of problematic for us if every day we're getting like that. Actually may be a bad thing to have that many like leads. So
yeah, too many bad leads actually wastes money
and time. Yeah.
Sellers reach out to them, which we pay them to do per hour, right? Sales people meet with them, which we pay per hour, and then they very realistically can't buy from us because So, for those of you guys listening, if you're not familiar, ICP stands for Ideal Client Profile. So it's this idea of like, who is the person who's your ideal customer, right? How big is their business? You know, do you sell to male, female? Like you kind of spell that out. So for Helium, our ideal client is typically a marketing manager or marketing director at a $5 to $500 million company. So kind of a mid-sized business. That's who we typically sell to, or business owners directly who own the company and they have probably a $3 to $50 million company, somewhere in that ballpark. So that's our ICP. So when we get leads that come in that are like, a $500,000 business, well, there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. And we'd want to help them. Our minimums, like our average client spends around $5,000 a month with us. That's just a huge percentage of their revenue, right? Like $60,000 a year is more than 10% of the whole company's revenue. It's like 12% of their revenue. So it's usually just cost prohibitive. When you're talking to a $10 million company, $60,000 a year is not a big deal, right? It's a drop in the bucket. So that's what we mean when we say ICP.
Yep. So we kind of used this analogy before of like, if you have like a lake there's going to be like some big fish in that lake, and there's going to be a lot of small fish and like more medium fish than large fish. And so we're like casting a net. And so whenever we cast a net, we're going to get the small fish. The danger of like the Sunday where you get like a really high percentage of junk leads is that sometimes you can cast a net in an area that like the small fish have just completely like sequestered off from everything else. Right. And then you just keep catching more of those small fish. So So that concerned me. So that's like one of my focuses right now. And I'll tell you, I just like I kind of have like a two-pronged approach that I'm working on today to help with this. So one thing I wanted to show is I added, I think like it's much easier to improve something that you're actually measuring. And so for both Facebook and Google, I've added these charts that show us the percentage of what I call not bad leads that we are getting across like the ad spend. And you can see like this is a pretty bad number right now, 9%, 8%. And so not bad is like anything that's not the under $500 lead. And so we kind of like for those of you guys listening, not bad is a highly technical marketing term for that we learned at our years at Procter & Gamble. There are good leads and there are not bad leads. So just for those of you who are wondering, that is a very technical marketing term. You will learn that in your MBA, not bad leads. Yes. Yeah. Sorry for using such technical jargon. That's okay. Yeah, the listeners will forgive you for your.
I'll start having definitions pop up on the screen for these.
Not bad. What's your definition of slightly better than bad?
Yeah. So one, I wanted to just build something so we can track this over time, because I'm making a number of changes in the platforms that should have positive impact. But the two ways I want to track it is what percentage of the leads that we're getting are not bad, and is that going up over time, because that's a good thing. But then also, what's the quantity of not bad leads that we're getting? Because sometimes, like, I don't really care if we got 50 leads in a day and 10 of them were good. That's okay. Even if it if the alternative is we're getting 20 leads and 10 are good, like that would be better. But what I care about is the quantity of good leads, less so than the percentage. Like, so if we catch a bunch of small fish, we can literally just like throw them in a dumpster. But I want the quantity of big fish to be going up. So I'm tracking these things daily, so that way we can really see, like, are the changes that, like, kind of the hypotheses that we're making about what's going to improve things actually working. So what I do want to show is, I know this is long-winded, I'll get to what I actually want to focus on today, but we are seeing some nice improvement happening. I know you see a lot of less than 500s, but we did get 10,000 plus from paid social last night.
Yep, I texted Dan right away to reach out.
Yeah, that one's awesome. Legacy, I kind of think even some of these small, like what I've been noticing is that some of these smaller ones that just don't say under 500 actually have bigger budgets, and they maybe are misinterpreting our question. So I know the doctor one yesterday that came through. Well, here's another good one, 1,000 to 3,500. So there was that doctor one that came through. That may have been
So let's see what his email was. Health. What did he put on his?
500 to 1,000.
Yeah, and he's spending more than that. So so I wonder if he interprets or people interpret the question as like specifically just on SEO, and maybe he's only spending 500 to 1,000 SEO, but he's spending more on ads. So that is interesting. I do agree that people might be misinterpreting the question.
My other thought was maybe they're putting what they would prefer to spend to see if that's something that we offer.
That's interesting.
That's what I was thinking too. Like, he'd want to spend 500 to 1,000 and not what is he spending, like 8,000 or something now? Yeah. But that was kind of something I thought too.
This is actually really interesting.
This is a little bit of an adjacent thought, and I'll finish my main thought in a second. But like, I think one other thing we might want to do is look at, what's our book rate when a not bad lead comes through, so that way we don't like let the small fish like overwhelm us and then we like lose attention on the big ones. Because like take for example, I mean, I know sometimes like you just aren't going to be successful reaching out, but like this one here is a huge budget coming from paid social, this marketing manager's ad.
Right.
And so I think like one thing we might want to think about in our sales system is like, do we have a great way of like really prioritizing these higher budget ones so that they get more attention, faster response time and stuff? I mean, the good thing is that there is stuff taking place.
Paul, what would happen? I'm just curious. I'm going to send our controller a message and just see kind of what would happen here. But what would happen if we just doubled our paid social budget for next month? Because we are getting good leads, we are getting not bad, we are getting bad, right? We're getting some of all of them. What would happen if we just doubled the budget?
Yeah, so this is something I've researched a fair bit myself, and it's not like we don't totally know what's going to happen, but there's kind of two potential outcomes that could happen. So one potential outcome is that we maintain the same ratio of good to bad, essentially. So that just means that we double and we get double the number of good leads. So that's our good case scenario. Mm-hmm. The dangerous scenario is like I was talking about with the lake, where in order to try to maintain performance, the fisher tries to find where can they catch the most fish, and they find these like, you know, these areas that are just like densely populated with tiny fish. And so the bad scenario is that we potentially could just catch way more bad fish, and the ratio of good could actually start to disappear because the algorithm gets really good at finding the bad ones. Now, the way that you combat that when you scale is like, if we can get the percentage of good to get closer to 50%, then when you scale, you can be a lot more confident that the algorithm's not going to start going after these like bad fish per se. But so, I mean, I think to answer it though, like we don't know, and it could be a good bet to make. And just see what happens. Like it's pretty easily reversible, and there won't be a ton of consequence from doing it. So I think on the upside, we could see double the number of like not bad leads. Mm-hmm. On the downside, we could start getting flooded with bad leads. Now, one other thing I'd say on that's not a bad thing either, is that right now, what we're really trying to, like on Facebook, the real lever we have is identifying which ads are producing the good leads. And so if we're spending more, we can learn some of this stuff faster. And we're also running a lot of tests right now of new ads. Like all of your new ads are like being tested against each other. So we'll start rotating those in. So if we spend more and we do get more bad, it might just help us come to the conclusion that certain ads are worse faster. Like one thing I'll point out is like in the last 30 days, our video has actually really started to deteriorate into a bunch of bad leads. So that one is probably one that we want to replace. So just even look at the last 7 days. I actually paused one of there's campaigns running right now, but
one of our personas. That's like a persona of our marketing manager we're targeting.
Yep. But you can see this marketing manager's one is actually doing fairly well. So, okay, so getting back to the original question, there's two things I'm doing right now. So this is the one I'm most excited about, because we finally have enough data on Google Ads to switch it from a matched conversions to a matched conversion value. So every lead that has been coming through based off the budget selector, I have passed back a different value. And so that way Google can learn the textual difference between a good and a bad lead from a value standpoint. And so I'm going to switch the algorithm to maximize conversion value, which should change its bidding objective. Instead of trying to get us as many leads as possible, it's going to really try to focus on how can it spend its money most effectively to get us the highest value. And like our best leads and good leads are weighted substantially more. So that switch alone could result in some pretty big changes, but I would expect for 2 weeks, we're going to see a bit of a dip before it really takes off. But eventually I want to get Facebook ads to the same place where we can start using values. But the problem with Facebook ads right now is just like our ratio of good to bad is like too weighted on bad. And so it just doesn't have enough. It has too sparse of data of the not bad for us to like it'll just stop. It will just kind of collapse on itself because there's not enough statistical data for it to learn from. So Google is making that transition, and I'm working on that. And then Facebook will get there as well. But for Facebook right now, our main lever is just rotating ads in and killing the worst ones that are producing the most junk. So I think that today I'm going to turn off and replace it with one of your new videos that performed well in the test campaign.
Paul, let me ask this. So, so those of you guys who are watching, listening, following along, smoke signals, whatever, however you are consuming this content, whatever platform you're on. In May, we did 8,000 in new MRR sales. It was like a particularly low month. We've been averaging about 21,000 in new MRR sales. This month, we're going to sell between 55 and 75,000 MRR. So we're way over double our average, and we're like almost 10 times what we sold in May. And the biggest change we made is we started going heavily on paid social. And there's one thing I want to bring up here on today's pod, which is this idea of limiting beliefs. So much of the success that you want in your life that you don't have, I'm convinced is right beyond our limiting beliefs of, well, I couldn't do that, or I'm too old for that, or, well, only men can do that, or, humans can't go to space, or whatever the thing is, right? And then somebody is like, well, what if we could go to space, right? Like, what if we could figure out how to survive in space? What if we could fake a moon landing? That'll trigger a lot of people, whatever side of the fence they're on. That's a whole conversation of, was the moon landing real? Was it faked? Was it done in a Hollywood studio? Comment in the section below what you think. But no, so like, could we go to the moon, right? We've done some amazing things as humans, right? Like heart transplants and crazy things, right? But there were people who were like, nah, it can't be done. And then there was some guy who's like, yeah, I'm going to try it, or I'm just going to do it anyway, right? Like the Wright brothers with flight. And I think so many times in our own lives with limiting beliefs, like I had this limiting belief. I said, well, we're business to business. We sell to companies. Companies are not on Facebook. Like that's just not how we're going to get leads and sales. They're just not on Meta, right? And somebody gave me the advice, Tim, there's 3.5 billion people that are on Meta every day. I promise you your buyers are on Meta. You just don't know how to advertise on Meta effectively, but the buyers are there. And you're not getting exposure because you just believe something that's wrong. You just believe something that's totally false. And the other thing too is I hadn't actually tested it. I had never done paid social for Helium at a high level. Like, let's spend thousands of dollars on paid social and really give it a good shot. And then it's like, oh, wow, this does work. I'm wrong. I just believed it when it worked, and therefore I didn't do it, and therefore it didn't work. And so it was this self-fulfilling prophecy of a limiting belief that I thought was true because I then didn't do the thing and then believed it didn't work, right? Right, like people who don't believe in dieting because they've tried to diet, it didn't work, but they didn't really diet. Actually, they still ate too many calories, and then they're like, dieting doesn't work for me. No,
calorie deficits don't work. Yeah, that's a common one.
Calorie deficits work, I promise you, but that shake that you're eating
in a calorie deficit.
This is a smoothie.
On our next episode.
If you grind up the calories into a smoothie, they don't count. Oh, I see. Got it. Okay, yes, that milkshake / like healthy smoothie is actually 984 calories and is more than 2 meals. But then you don't feel as full because you ground it all up into a smoothie. That's a whole other conversation. But these are the limiting beliefs, like calorie deficits don't work for me. No, they do. You're just not eating a calorie deficit. So limiting beliefs, right? Paul, I wanted to kind of ask this and like just, what is a limiting belief we have right now that we should, what is something weird that's limiting us? Because I'm just thinking about it and saying, right, man, what if we just doubled our budgets? Like, yeah, we'd probably get more bad leads, right? But we'd probably get more good leads too. Because really, if I look back on what changed from May to now, was we started advertising more aggressively. That was really probably the biggest thing. We've been focusing on our close rate, but we also are getting more proposals. Like we're generating more proposals now than we were before of people who have the pain that we solve, people coming in with the pain. So I guess here's my question. Could we, do you have the data right now to look at across paid Google and paid social that we're doing? What is generating the most proposals? And theoretically, if we doubled that budget, would we not also double the proposals we're generating from that channel? Is it that simple?
Yeah, so I don't know that I fully trust these numbers right here because I feel like we definitely have way more. Like, I wonder if sometimes proposals get skipped and deals just get signed, or like, I think we need to like go validate this data because this would suggest that we've only had 2 proposals from paid social and from Google over this time and 4 from organic. So, I think we need to validate that because I don't think that sounds right.
Organic social 8. Wow.
Yeah.
That's way higher than I thought it would be.
Yeah. So I think that's something we need to go look at. Like on doubling budget, I think it's a relative.
Can you zoom in a little bit? Can you zoom in? Like the numbers are really small for.
Oh yeah.
Can you zoom in some? Okay, so paid Google saying 2 proposals, paid social 2, organic search 4. Is organic social a 0? That's a 0 or an 8? It's a 0.
0.
Oh, it's a 0.
Yeah.
Direct 6 and then other/unknown 17. Okay, that's a huge bucket.
Right. So I think
other/unknown. What are those?
Well, let's like look at some of these. So like here's one Tom. Here's Primeline Exteriors.
Yep.
Buff and Coat.
So those are probably those are deals that came in referral, other like introductions, referrals, things like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So those would be, I'm looking at some of those. Those are like referrals and or connections that we made. Okay.
Yeah. So it's probably worth us diving in more to see if there's like stuff that's mislabeled, but like right now doubling wouldn't produce like it, we don't have the data to say it would be like a slam dunk. At least it's not bad to test, but like there's kind of like 2 outcomes that could happen is we could double the number of good leads that we have, or we could also just like triple the number of bad leads and get the same number of good leads. The question in my mind is whether the foundation is strong enough on our ads. Like, have we gotten our ads to a place where it's like they're all working the right ICP well enough, where if we put fuel on the fire, it's going to help us get more of the right stuff. But I really think it could go either way. And there's, to me, any change that could have a dramatically positive impact that's also easily reversible is not a bad gamble to take. So the outcome, yeah.
Can you go back to that the proposal list again, Paul? So let's talk about this for a second because I think this gets to the heart of the like, what's the one thing we could change today? Right? Yeah. I think let's zoom in on this, the 3 of us, before we run out of time here. This to me is the kicker. So we've had 31 proposals generated in the last, like, call it 30 days. And it's across paid Google, paid social, organic search, no organic social, although I think that one HVAC lead that we got, who now, it's still alive, actually. He texted me yesterday and wants to meet with the CFO. That one I came in actually through paid organic socials. I mean, we maybe haven't marked that one correctly. Yep. Direct and then other/unknown. So if we look at this exactly, what would grow our proposals the most would be direct or other unknown, because that is 23 of the 31. Now the question is are the paid ads that we're doing and the organic content, is that creating a halo effect and a lift across all the channels and then bringing people in the other ways? I particularly know that 3 of these deals that have closed were direct, either introductions from people we met at conferences or referrals, right? And the big deals are referrals and or people we met. Not all of them, but that does help. So I definitely think from there we can learn that whatever we can do to drive new referrals, that's definitely going to be valuable for us, because referrals are really good for every business, but especially for ours, right?
Yep.
To your point, though, you're saying if paid Google and paid social are showing that they're only generating 4 proposals, right? but yet we're getting a ton of leads from them. So like 220 are these numbers right? 220 leads and only 2 proposals, and 223 leads and 2 proposals. I mean, that's like a 0.00 lead to proposal.
I don't really trust these numbers exactly, because like we've had a lot more second meetings. I think we might need to just look at like what's going on. I mean, if we look at meetings, it's not like, like last week.
There should be no second meeting that isn't a proposal. That would be really rare.
Right. So, I mean, the meeting numbers have increased so substantially that I think there could be like a data error somewhere. Like, who's this dude?
Well, I have noticed that sometimes things are now getting put into billing or kickoff and they haven't even been created in HubSpot.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, snap. That's not good.
So I think
this one, for example, they are in proposal negotiation, right? And where did they come from?
Somehow direct traffic. So I would guess that they saw an ad, most likely, and then came through. So that's some of our, multi-touch attribution stuff.
Danielle, can you dig into this today, and specifically those 2 where it's like 220 leads from both Google and then 220 from social, with only 2 proposals being marked? I agree. That's for each. That's way too low. That feels way, way, way too low to me. Can you dig into this data and let's get the real numbers there? Because Paul, I think if we looked at that number and they both said 15, right? We would be like double the budgets and let's generate 30 per. That's 60 proposals. We're going to close a ton of those. So I think what's limiting us right now from just doubling budgets, right, is the data is not saying that doubling budgets would double our sales. The data is saying that doubling referrals would double our sales. But I think stuff is being improperly categorized as direct traffic that came from an ad or paid, right? And people looking for us. A, or B, stuff is not getting properly put into HubSpot or properly marked because the reps are just busy doing stuff, and then we're not getting the data we need to make decisions.
Yep. Yeah. One other thing that I'm working on, because I think this is a like low hanging fruit, is let's do like last. I'll do like the last 7 days of organic search, or I'll do this month. Organic search produced 2 leads, 12 conversions. But if I look at last month, it produced 7 conversions, like a really high rate of conversions too, leads, really high rate of leads. And so we changed the form on some of the pages and it actually dropped the conversion rate. It didn't improve it. So I switched it to a multi-step form. Okay. So I've been working on actually improving the form. So I'll like pull this up really quick. But 2, I actually figured out with AI that I could go into all the pages. So once I get this form dialed in, I can go into all the pages and update it at once with AI's help. Because like right now, like if we go to like any of these random pages, let's see, and then one of our like location pages, we've still got the calendar invite that's, asking for too much. So I had I ran our location tracker tool that I built for the sales team on the Helium site. And I basically have this massive list of SEO updates that I'm going to have Claude go in and change on like all of our service pages. And some of that is just updating the forms, take, for example, one thing that AI called out that I think is a really great point is look at our location pages. Like right now, so 1, this looks weird, so I'm trying to get this corrected. But 2, like where's the social proof, like the reviews? Right. Everybody review wise, like our homepage actually does a great job of this. So like this, like we should have this up here. We should have these down there. Yeah. All the stuff. So I'm gonna, and I did an analysis of like all of our markets and then looking at what are the top pages, including that our pages aren't. And I built a whole list, and now Brian is actually building those out. So we're going to add like a ton of stuff, like way more FAQs, nearby cities that link to other cities. So I think there's a lot of low hanging fruit. And the whole point of this is, so one, like this would take like hours, except for that AI can just go into our database, go into our pages and actually go execute the changes, which I didn't know it was even capable of doing, but I did it on a sample page yesterday and it worked beautifully. So like we're able to do like all of these huge upgrades with just Claude code running in the background.
Nice.
But like today we get like 1,000 visitors from SEO, and we had like 14 conversions this month. I feel like that's really low hanging fruit. So I think one, we can improve this content substantially to get better rankings and more traffic, but then I want to really get the form dialed in. So that way, and like the whole free audit concept really dialed in, because I SEO, like just looking, it does a good, like it produces a lot higher quality leads than any other channel does right now. We just don't get that much volume. So these are all kind of low hanging fruit things that we can implement.
So let's, so Danielle, can you do this today? Can you take a look at that last 2 months or last month, and how many proposals? No, let's do last 2 months. How many proposals we actually generated from which source? But can you dig into those more deeply? I think if we get that data, then we can make a way better determination of where to increase budgets next month, like where to spend more money. Because I think we might need to spend more money on organic, but to your point, we might just need to spend time and energy on making the pages better. Right?
I think I think the pages can convert better, they can rank better, and we should start there. Now, one thing I was going to say is like the Facebook pixel lives on our website. So everybody who ever visits our site, whether they came from Facebook or didn't come from Facebook, Facebook is able to capture data about them. And so almost anytime you turn on Facebook ads, Facebook starts to steal credit for leads that are coming through.
Right.
And so I think right now that and also Facebook has a halo effect. And I think a lot of these people that are actually coming through direct and are unlabeled, which was a big bucket. I'm trying to see like what that was.
The second largest bucket.
Yeah, I think direct is really Facebook in disguise that just got mislabeled. So
yeah, I was curious about that too.
I mean, I read a study actually recently that was like, what is the best way to measure attribution? And they tested like these like highly engineered mathematical models. And then they tested what they call like I'm trying to think what they call it, but it's like you turn off a channel and then you measure how did everything change compared to the average. So It's like I forget what those are called, but it's a type of test. Yes. And they found that test was a lot better at determining the influence of a channel on your business than the mathematical attribution models were. And so my takeaway from that is look at May, look at June, Facebook was off, Facebook was on, and stuff started to work way, way better. So
I think even if we can't perfectly attribute it, where it came from, we know that it's working because we see the impact.
Yeah, and if we turned it off, we probably would suddenly, like everything else would just look worse. Like there's a halo effect going on. Right. It's very hard to capture in data.
Yeah, so I think to move our business forward, I would say my one thing is going to be improved, getting better at training the reps on closing, right? And just continuing to get better at that, right? Because we're getting the deals in, we know how to run the deals, but it's closing. It's getting great at closing. I would say, Paul, Danielle today, I think the one thing on your side I'm just thinking through is like, let's get this exact data of where every proposal came from in the last 2 months. And then that'll help us know where to spend our energy, right?
Yeah.
Where to spend our money and energy. Because if we find referrals really are critical, then the referral program we just rolled out, if we don't get enough referrals, let's make it better. Let's spend more money there to get more referrals because those really convert at a super high level. And then Paul, I think let's do that. Let's look at if we were to spend more money next month, where would we spend it? to drive more proposals. Like,
Yep.
to me, that's what just stood out to me as like the one thing today we should do.
Yep.
Let me show you guys one last thing too before we jump, because I think this is really relevant to that data question.
Yeah.
All right. This is from social ads since 10. So booked a meeting 32, meeting ran 21, second meeting 9. So the second meeting really is probably our true proposal number.
Yep.
Because like I'd be surprised if
there's almost never going to be a second meeting that isn't a proposal.
Right. And so
yeah,
what I think is going on is that some of these are still like very much alive and being worked, and they haven't yet been like captured as reach proposal in HubSpot. So
okay.
I think if we think of social, we're probably more looking at 9 of the social leads, which is substantial. Like that's actually quite a few. And if we can close 40% of those, that's a lot of business over this like more than 30-day period. But then look at Google too. Now, second meeting ran from Google is surprisingly low.
Way lower, yeah.
So I don't know, like this, like it doesn't really, the data doesn't totally fit the anecdote here, it seems like, where everybody is meeting way more frequently. Like the meeting numbers are like going through the roof.
I will say I've been talking to the reps about it, and they are meeting. They're meeting with everybody who wants to meet with us. But they said a good portion of those meetings just aren't the right fit, don't have budget, right?
Yep.
So right now what we've been doing is meeting with all the leads that we're generating, because why not, right? Because they can either be a no-bull deal, they can be referral out to another agency that does smaller work, or you never know if they'll spend more. But I think for the sales team's time and just energy levels, obviously the best thing to do is fill them completely from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. with good quality leads. That'll generate so much more revenue for us, which is why I'm pushing on doubling the budgets, is because what I would like, the direction I want to move towards next month, Paul, is just more leads, and then we get a system for skimming out the bad ones, right? Where it's kind of back to your idea of the fish dumpster or whatever, which would be a cool band name, by the way, Fish Dumpster. It's like, hey guys, we're Fish Dumpster. Super good band name. Anyway, so if we think of our fish dumpster, like I don't really care how many like tiny little bluegill we generate. I'm just after the bass, right? And if it's like, well, we gotta, for every single, for every 50 bluegill, we get 1 bass. Okay, sweet. Like let's throw 700 bluegill in the dumpster to get whatever that, whatever, 10 good bass, right? I don't really care how many of the small leads we generate. To me, it's just about the numbers, right? Yep. So if we can do it profitably, which, I think we spent $22,000 on ads this month, and if we close $75,000 in monthly recurring revenue, like we're fine, right? Like we're totally fine. So the question is, what if we spent, $40,000 on ads? Can we generate $150,000 in monthly recurring? Like that would still be totally worth it, even if we generate a bunch of garbage leads that can't buy from us. Don't care. It doesn't really matter, right?
Yep. Yeah, and I think like our goal right now should be to get to about 50 leads, as in the over 3,500. Yeah. Now, I would say that I have seen from the meeting notes that some of the people that are like in between under 500 and 3,500 are actually fairly good leads.
Agreed.
I've seen that a couple times. So we may want to also, we might want to also expand our definition, or just make a new, make not bad lead as a metric, because I want to see that number go up. The 2 metrics I want to track are leads and not bad leads, and make sure that we have a really good pulse on those improving or not improving. And then I think our goal should really be to get 50 leads per month. And if we get that, I think that's where we need to be to hit our MRR number. Right now we're probably at 25 leads a month, the really good ones. But then we also probably do need to update our system to be really intelligent about putting people's immediate attention on the best leads that come through.
Yeah. At our current numbers ish, 50 leads should generate 43,750,000 in MRR. Ish.
Yeah.
Right? Just with assumptions in place. So I agree. I think that's definitely a goal. So let's make that the next lead goal is 50 leads a month, like not conversions, but leads.
Yep.
That. All right, guys, we're about to hit the hour mark. So we'll wrap it up there and we'll have more tomorrow. But for those of you guys listening and following, we're podcasting every day, documenting this journey and going through these things. Some of it's going to be mindset. Some of it's going to be really tactical in the weeds. Feel free to message us. We can put our emails in. If you have more specific questions for your own business, like what do I do on the ads? How are you guys setting up your campaigns? We're totally happy to help and be transparent. We love giving advice to other business owners if you guys have these questions, or how are you training your sales team, or whatever that is. But thanks guys for joining, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.